Presented by Church Tech U, it's the ProPresenter show. On today's show, the limitations of the Reflow editor. Hi, and welcome again to the ProPresenter show. This is the show where I help you learn all about ProPresenter. My name's Paul Allen Clifford. And before we get started, if you've ever run into a limitation, you tried to do something that you thought would be pretty straightforward and it didn't seem to work like you thought it would in Reflow, go ahead, subscribe, like, etc. So this popped into my head as a result of the two-language tutorial that I released a little bit ago. And so I thought that it would be worth covering kind of some of the problems that you might run into and dealing with that. So let's head over to my computer and we'll talk about that. So let's start off with A Mighty Fortress is Our God. I had a tutorial that I released very recently that showed kind of one of the limitations. And if you go into Reflow here and check, you'll notice that these two slides are right, and the rest of them, they've got words over here, but not so much here. And that's the first thing, is Reflow only affects the first slide, or the first object in a slide. So in all of these slides, they have multiple text boxes. In the top two, I've reordered those so that the text box is on the top, and these are farther down. But let me show you one of the other problems if you do that. So if I were to combine slide 1 and slide 2 here by hitting the backspace key or the delete button on a Mac keyboard, that's where the backspace key should be. If I do that, now I told you that there were two text boxes in this. Now let's go to the editor, and if I go here, notice that they combined into just one text box. So that's one thing, is that, like I said, it only affects this top text box, this top object right here. So instead of putting it in this second text box, which you might expect, you might not, but just so you know, it just put it there. And now, if I go back into Reflow and I split it, so here, and hit Insert Slide Break, or it's Option Return on a Mac, or I think that it is Control Enter on Windows, and do that, that splits fine. But now, if we go into Edit, we'll notice that it didn't do anything with that second text box. So just something to keep up in your head. Now if we go back to Reflow again, and now let's try doing it with slides 3 and 4. So notice, here, let me hide myself for just a second. I'm going to make this a little bit bigger so that it's a little obvious. For still our ancient foe doth seek to work us woe, his craft and power great, and armed with cruel hate. Okay, so if I click there and combine 3 and 4 using the exact same trick, we go back and look. For still our ancient foe doth seek to work us woe, where's his craft and power are great? It's not showing anywhere. And if I click on Edit here, not there either. It's not hidden somehow. It just disappeared. So what it did was it combined the second text box. I say second, text 2. It combined text 2 it didn't combine text 1. So if we go back here into Reflow, you might be thinking, well, no problem. I will just click in there and I will split it by clicking Insert Slide Break, and all it did was it duplicated. For still our ancient foe doth seek to work us woe. For still our ancient foe doth seek to work us woe. That's not right. So I can undo a couple of times, which is what I did there, just going up to Edit and Undo, which on the Mac is Command Z. It's Control Z on Windows, or Command Z or Control Z if you're in a country that hasn't decided that they were going to redo the English language to be different like mine. So anyway, you can undo that, but if you made that mistake, shut down ProPresenter, and then restarted it, it would be lost because the undo buffer is cleared when you shut down ProPresenter and you restart it. So that's something else to know about that, is that you'll run into this issue if you're not careful. Do you like these videos, but you'd really like to learn from me in person? Well, I've got some great news for you. I am traveling around the country and maybe even around the world training churches on how to use ProPresenter. So I've got a either a 1 or a 1.5 day class that you can attend. For more details, head on over to tdm.fyi/events24, the top one right here, and register for the event nearest you. If there is no event that's near you, no problem, you can request one. So head on over to tdm.fyi/class request. That's this one down here, and you can say, hey, I'm interested in attending a class, or even I'm interested in hosting a class. Up to you which you prefer. In the last one, that is just information. It's not obligation, so don't hesitate to put your information in there, and I'll let you know when there's a class in your area, or we'll talk about what it takes to host a class. It's probably a lot less than you imagine that it is. So head over there, and I look forward to meeting you in person. Another thing, let's go to a different song. This is one that I just created for that tutorial that I mentioned. Okay, here we are. Now if I select one of the slides and go to Reflow Editor in this, notice this time we've got text over here, but we only have from the first text box once again. Well, what happens when I combine this slide with this slide? So let's show you this. Amazing Grace, how sweet the sound, and this is Sublime Gracia. Probably not pronounced correctly. Never took a day of a Spanish class. I foolishly chose French in high school to take, which nothing wrong with that as a language, just I don't run into a lot of French-speaking people in the U.S. So watch what happens when I combine this thing that has two text boxes. Now I've got Sublima Gracia in the top one. I'm going to undo that, and Fui Ciego, again, I'm so sorry for pronouncing stuff wrong. I just don't know. So if I recombine that, notice that second text box just disappeared. And if I go into the editor for that, you'll notice that all 4 lines of the top language are there, but only 2 of the bottom language. So if I use my trick from a few tutorials ago about how to bring in multiple languages, I have lost the ability to combine and split slides because it doesn't affect both text boxes. So I'm going to go into Reflow here and use the undo to try and fix that. And there, finally got that to work. So if that was the case, what I would have to do is go through the entire procedure that I showed you in that other tutorial. You know, if the worship leader says, hey, we need to go to 4 lines per slide in with both languages, then to get around that problem, what you're going to need to do is just re-import it and follow that same procedure just with the re-imported version. So that is a downside of doing that. So that is some of the limitations of the Reflow editor in ProPresenter 7. If you like this content, you'd probably like my ProPresenter 7 Quick Start course. So head on over to TDM.fyi/pro7 and quick. Give me your name and email address, and I'll make a login for you for free. Until next time, this is Paul Allen Clifford from TrinityDigitalMedia.com and ChurchTechU.com, reminding you to go out and change eternity.